What's up, everybody? Charlie Marlow here. Hope you all had a great Thanksgiving and a happy Thanksgiving. We got to get back into some hot stove talk. Now, I've been posting a lot of videos, a lot of radio segments from 590 The Fan, and a lot of people on the channel here are into them, but I'm starting to see some comments of people saying, oh, the same discussions over and over and over again. Well, what are we supposed to do here? Because we're talking about the same players. There's not been a lot of activity. We have the winter meetings coming up. Hopefully that will kickstart some things actually happening. But until then, we unfortunately have to talk about the same old guys, the same old targets in terms of catchers, or what the Cardinals may do if they go after a shortstop. I don't think they will. A starting pitcher, who knows? Some bullpen pieces. But I tried to switch it up here today. We'll try to. Because I did see on MLB Network the other day that John Paul Morosi brought up an interesting trade involving the Cardinals. Now, his segment on MLB Network, he was specifically talking about the catcher's market and not just via trade. So obviously, you start with Wilson Contreras in free agency. You got guys like Christian Vasquez, and then you discuss the trade market. Sean Murphy of the Oakland A's, and of course these Toronto Blue Jays catchers that I feel like we've done 1,000 videos about, Alejandro Kirk and also Danny Jansen. So, John Paul Morosi brought up this trade scenario that he thought made sense and could actually happen. So, I'm going to ask you guys this. What if I tell you, and you probably see it right there on the ticker, Lars Nootbaar for Danny Jansen? When I throw that out there, and again, John Paul Morosi threw that out there. So what do you think of that? So you're getting a catcher in Danny Jansen. You'll have 2 years of control. Right-handed bat, and I'll show you some stats and some numbers here. So Danny Jansen is 27 years old. He'll be 28 at the beginning of the season, basically, next year. 2 years of control. He had 2.9 WAR last year. Hasn't played a ton of games. So last year, played 72 games. In his 5 years, 323 career games. So the most games he's ever played in a season was actually 2019 when he played 107. So good power numbers in terms of especially how many games he's playing. 15 homers, 44 RBI last year, 260 batting average, 339 on base, 516 slug up there for the Toronto Blue Jays for an 855 OPS. His OPS plus, 141. So 41% above league average last year. Now for his career, his OPS plus is only 98. So you're talking about essentially a league average offensive player for his career, but you're banking on the fact, coming off a career year, a 141 OPS plus, is he more of that player? Can he develop in his age 28, 29, 30, 31 season if you keep him beyond 2 years to be more of a plus offensive player? And also, if you give him way more at bats, go back to 2019. He had 384 plate appearances that season, 13 homers, 43 RBI. So his career batting average is 223, career on base 307, career slug 423 for Danny Jansen. So, good catcher, solid catcher. Can he play a full season? Is that a guy you pair with Andrew Knizner for a couple years until Ivan Herrera is ready to go? Is your catching tandem more like Danny Jansen potentially for 2/3 of the season, Andrew Knizner for 1/3 of the season? Because clearly Danny Jansen has not played that many games in his career. What do we say? It's 107 was the most back in 2019. So remember, you're getting 2 years of control of Danny Jansen for Lars Nootbaar. And I think this is a really interesting trade proposal. Because if you brought this up last year, I think everybody, all Cardinals fans, would be saying, well, yeah, I mean, you make that deal in a heartbeat because it's a corner outfielder that you're trading for a catcher. It's hard to find catchers that can hit. It's not that difficult to find a corner outfielder that can hit. But I think Lars Nootbaar, especially in the second half of his season, just came out guns blazing. And I think that's changed how we all think about Lars Nootbaar. So Lars Nootbaar, who won't be a free agent until the year 2028. So whether it's the Cardinals keeping him or if he were to go to the Toronto Blue Jays, you're getting him for the 2023, 24, 25, 26, 27 season. So you have 5 years of control for 25-year-old Lars Nootbaar. You got to think you're getting his absolute prime here coming up, ages 25, 26, 27, 28, 29 seasons. And again, this is a guy who the narrative around Lars Nootbaar changed this year, especially in the second half. He was always an okay prospect, 8th round pick, some good numbers throughout the minors. But go back to 2021 when he played 58 games with the Cardinals. Okay. He was an OPS plus 103, 239 average, 317 on base, 422 slug. The other day on the radio, we talked about the fact that Lars Nootbaar went to that drive line facility and was able to add 8 miles per hour on his bat speed. And in doing that, and then getting regular playing time, especially in the second half of the season. Remember, you had injuries to Dylan Carlson. You had injuries on and off to Tyler O'Neill. Corey Dickerson for a while wasn't performing towards the second half. Lars Nootbaar took that opportunity, was a really, really good player all around, has a great arm, good offensively. Remember, this guy in the playoffs, he was your leadoff batter for the Cardinals, was arguably taking the best at-bats of anybody through those 2 postseason games against the Philadelphia Phillies. So Nootbaar for the season, in 108 games played, his OPS plus was 126, 26% above league average. Not a great batting average, 228, but a pretty good OBP for a guy with a batting average that low. 340 OBP, 448 slug. Did hit 14 homers and 40 RBI for Lars Nootbaar. And then look at what happened in the second half. So I think this is the interesting conversation. It's who is Lars Nootbaar going to be for his career? Is it going to be the first half, the 2021 Lars Nootbaar? Look, he's really young. He hasn't played a lot. Or could he be more like the second half 2022 Lars Nootbaar for the rest of his career? So let's look at his splits for the 2022 season. And we'll go ahead and look at platoon splits, first and half of the season. So first half, Lars Nootbaar, 41 games. He batted 200, 277 on base, a 378 slug. All right, second half of the season, played most of the year for the Cardinals, played 67 games. Lars Nootbaar hit 240, so his batting average increased by 40 points. His on-base was 366. On-base essentially improved about 90 points. And his slugging percentage went up 100 points, from 378 to 480. That's a really good player. That's a really nice player. And again, in his 2 postseason games against the Phillies, I'll find these stats here. I know it's only 2 games, but I do think it's interesting because here was a guy who was looked upon, I think, as a 4th or 5th outfielder moving forward. And now he's being looked upon as potentially the Cardinals' starting right fielder, maybe your leadoff guy, and now a valuable trade chip where you're wondering, do you actually move him for a guy like Danny Jansen who can really fill a need at catcher? Remember, it's much easier to replace a corner outfielder than it is a catcher. And also, the Cardinals' options at catcher, you have Andrew Kisner. He needs to prove himself in the big leagues as more than a backup, needs to hit better in the big leagues. Ivan Herrera, probably a year or so away, we'll see there. But the Cardinals have a glut of outfielders. They got Tyler O'Neill, Dylan Carlson, Lars Nootbaar, if you want to throw Juan Yepez in there. We all know that Jordan Walker is on his way, probably will make his big league debut this year. And even somebody like Nolan Gorman, I think there's a very good chance that because he's blocked at third base by Nolan Arenado, because Nolan Gorman is blocked at playing first base potentially by Paul Goldschmidt, is he going to be a guy who can play second base a lot. Remember, with the different rules with the shift, where you're going to have to be more athletic, you can't skew the defenses to help out as much. So to me, also, Nolan Gorman could be a guy who ends up as a corner outfielder. So I just mentioned a bunch of names. Brendan Donovan also is a guy who can play corner outfield. I think he's going to play more second base moving forward with Edman at short. But again, Brendan Donovan can play corner outfield. So my point is you have a lot of options there. I mentioned 5 or 6 guys. You only need about 3 or 4 of them to hit. And I say hit meaning not just hit on the baseball field, but to hit on your bet, basically. 3 of them are your outfielders. Another one can be your DH. You can rotate a Yepez, a Gorman, based on matchups. So here is Lars Nootbaar for the postseason. Only 2 games, we know, but it was against the Phillies and it was against aces. Remember, you're lining up against Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola. He had 8 plate appearances, so 6 at-bats. He did have a couple walks and a couple hits, including a double. Again, very small sample size, but I think you have to be impressed. He hit .333, so he was 2 for 6 with a couple of walks. So on-base percentage 500, slug 500 for 1,000 OPS. I understand it's 2 games. It's only 2 games, but still, that was pretty impressive. When you watch those games, and he was batting leadoff in the playoffs. Arguably, Lars Nootbaar took the best at-bats of any of the Cardinal players for those 2 games against the Phillies. So what do you guys think? Are you cool with this trade? Do you want to hold on to Lars Nootbaar? Do you think he's going to be more like the second half Lars Nootbaar of 2022 for the rest of his career? Are you saying, no, now's the time? His value couldn't be higher to trade him for Danny Jansen. And also, what do you think of Danny Jansen? Would the Blue Jays have to add another piece? Because you're getting 5 years of control of Lars Nootbaar, a right fielder, for 2 years of control of Danny Jansen. Do you think that's not enough? Do the Cardinals need to get maybe a reliever tossed in there to make the deal more fair? But I think the more interesting question is this the perfect time to trade Lars Nootbaar because his value is at an all-time high? And I think that's a very interesting question. It's the old stock market. Of course, you buy low, you sell high. Is this just a small sample size that Lars Nootbaar was really, really good for the second half of the season, had a nice couple games in the playoffs? Is this the time where his value is at an all-time high? Is this the perfect time to move him? I would probably lean more towards that category. And it's not an indictment of Lars Nootbaar. It's more so the second half may be the best we see of Lars Nootbaar. Even if he comes down, he could still be an above-average Major League Baseball player for the next 5 years. That wouldn't surprise me one bit. But to me, it's more about the fact that corner outfielders are much easier to replace than a catcher is. And a catcher that can hit you 15 home runs in half a season, there's not a ton of guys like that out there. So I would make this deal, but I do think the Blue Jays would have to add another piece. Could that be a reliever? I haven't really, to be honest with you, looked at who the Blue Jays have in that capacity to add. But I think at this point, 5 years of Nootbaar versus 2 years of Danny Jansen, I think the Blue Jays would have to add another piece, a big league reliever, maybe another prospect to get that deal done. What do you guys think? Comment. If you like this video, throw me a like, please. If you're still watching, you haven't subscribed yet, it'd be great if you could subscribe. It helps out the YouTube creators. I'm trying to do more videos. Hopefully we get some action. Hopefully we get some hot stove rumors, but not just rumors at the winter meetings. Hopefully we get some deals actually being done. It seems like the first base market has moved with Anthony Rizzo, with Carlos Santana, and then with the big deal, Jose Abreu, who's about, 36, getting a 3-year deal with the Houston Astros. So you wonder when that catching market will move. If Wilson Contreras were to go to the Cardinals, obviously that means this whole video is a moot point, but maybe Wilson Contreras goes to the Astros. All of a sudden, you see this market moving. And the Cleveland Guardians apparently also are into this catching market. So you wonder, if one guy goes off the board, does that mean the Cardinals, the Astros, the Guardians, whoever doesn't make that first move, all of a sudden they're more aggressive trying to go after a Sean Murphy or Alejandro Kirk or Danny Jansen? All right. That's my video. What do you think? Lars Nootbaar for Danny Jansen. Are you doing that deal? Let me know, and we'll talk to you soon. Lots more hot stove baseball all winter long here on the Charlie Marlow YouTube channel, with also a lot of great videos from the other radio hosts on 590 The Fan, KFNS. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you later.